Hello and welcome to one of our System C training videos, which is aimed at new users for the Seapine system, getting you up and running and hopefully making better sense of your screens, because quite often at first startup it can be a little bit difficult to find your way around. Prerequisites for this particular session, which is only going to be about 5 to 10 minutes long, are that you have a valid login to the test track system and that you're ready to go. Secondly, that you've set the test track client up on your machine and that it's pointing and configured to look at the database properly. You're also going to need a pen and some paper, or if you're feeling brave and you've got yourself ready to go in test track, you could try split screens, because this video can be paused and resumed at any point. Quick look at learning objectives for this session. I'm going to show you how to set up the top menus, so that gives you a more friendly look and feel to when you're using Seapine. We're also going to look up setting column headers up for you on the screen, because quite often your role, you'll need to see certain aspects of a call pulled out and in visibility all of the time. So that's quite a key aspect of how you look at your data. When we've got our column headers right, quite often it's a good idea to save a view so that you can pull those back at any time should you accidentally mess them up. We'll also have a very quick look at tabs and how useful they are. And very finally, before we leave this, we'll have a quick look at the workflow events that are in the system. These appear as icons on your screen. And the icons that you see do depend on the role that you have, because we do give role-based access. So, without further ado, let's have a quick look at my system setup today. As you can see, got quite a busy screen here. Just to introduce you to what some of these things are, these are the workflow icons that I was talking to you about here, and also when I click on there, this menu bar that appears at the bottom. Looks a little bit dizzying, but anybody who's just logged in for the first time will probably realise their screen looks nothing like this at all. These here are the various different tabs. As you can see, I've renamed them so that they've got useful stuff on for me. And also I've got a filter picked up within each one of those. So hopefully by the end of this session you won't have not exactly the same layout, but you'll have something quite similar. What I've done is I've provided myself with a login which is pretty much the same as a brand new user into the system. This is a development account that I've picked up here, and the first thing that you might notice is that there's an awful lot of stuff not at the top of the screen. Also, I appear to have a whole load of calls which mean nothing to me. That's because this particular user has a non-filtered view, and everybody has that when you very first go in. At the top, you'll see that the system is trying to pull back 77,000 plus calls. So the very first thing I'd recommend anybody does, should you have actually obtained a not filtered screen, quite often this times out and gives you a blank, is to put a filter on. This is the filters list on the far right hand side. Have a word with your supervisor or a colleague to find out what filter you'll be working from on your day-to-day work. I'm just going to pick any one of these just for now to make life simpler. At this time then, this particular filter has 22 items in it. And I'm going to pretend, just for the sake of it, that this is my work filter for today. So, let's go back to the core items that we need to add. The first thing is our menu items. This up here doesn't have an awful lot going on. If I right click on this top toolbar now, you'll see that there is a menu here of all the different menus that can be put on. What I'm going to show you are the most useful ones for us. By all means you can play with this and put something different on should you wish to, but these are the ones that will get you started the quickest. For a start, I'm going to take the address bar off. It's not marvellously useful and it does take up a whole line. I'm then going to put on Edit. I'm going to put on Find. I'm going to put on View. And then finally, I'm going to put on Workflow Events. This won't look like it's doing an awful lot, but just wait and see. Anybody eagle-eyed, and you really would have to be, may have noticed that something has appeared down the bottom and it's currently an empty toolbar. I'm just going to drag this around the screen. I can actually move it anywhere if I want to. She says hopefully. I'm going to take it up to the top and have it up there. The reason it's not got anything in it at all at the moment is that we hide icons that are out of use at the time. If I go and click on some one of these calls, this is an open call, these are the various icons available to me. If I move to a different status call, one that's fixed, the icons will change. So we hide icons that are currently out of use from you so that really you can see hopefully a slightly less dizzying selection of them. So that is in fact the best way to set up all of your various menu items. There is one other further thing I'll show you later, which is all about having totals for this screen here. But the next thing I'm going to move on to is saving a view and creating a view that makes some sense to you. These are the default column headers that are supplied with the system when you very first log in. They're all very well and good, but they really don't tell you an awful lot. If, for instance, I was in support, I might want to have things like what type of call it was, whether it was an incident or a change request. I can add as many column headers as I like, and I really mean that. I don't seem to have managed to make it not work at any point, by simply right-clicking on this top toolbar and inserting a column. You'll notice that this says now not set. It's waiting for me to put something onto it. Right-clicking this will give me a full and somewhat dizzying list of all of the information that's within the system. Most of these at the bottom are split out depending on the actual action or activity that we perform in the system. These relate to the workflow icons. However, most of the day-to-day stuff you'll find is underneath either General, and please note that under here there's all sorts including folders. I might put that on actually, just to see what that looks like. That'll tell me where this has been planned into to do some work within development on. And let's put something else in here as well. Let's insert another column and let's pull back type. That again would be a general field. I'll put one more in just so that I can show you what's on one of the other key areas here, which is called the Extra Information tab. This has all sorts of bits and pieces on it which are linked to some of our other fields which are either on the Extra Information tab or in fact visible on the front screen. Things such as start SLA time or the source it was logged by. All of those things are all findable because if you put the information into the system, realistically you can pull it back out again. So there you go. That's the sort of setup that perhaps you might require for your job. You may want more, and there's absolutely no harm in doing that. Should you like to change the screen look around, you can click and drag these about. Also, if you don't like them, you can right-click and simply remove them. It's entirely tailorable and down to you as to what you put on your screen. If you end up with a view which you actually like and you want to keep a hold of it, you can save a view. Up here, if I do View and save Work Item View, I can give it a name. Then anytime if my screen gets into a mess, I can pull that back round again. So that really is the easy bit of setting up what columns you want and the order that they come out in. We've saved that view, and so if we want to move on now, we might want to think about having different views for different bits of your job. As you can see, this is just quite linear. It's a single screen at this juncture of time. I'm going to add something now called a tab. This is available from the top menu in the very first instance. Add tab. Once I've added the tab, a small tab menu starts to appear over here where I can open more. In the first instance, it's a bit unimaginative. It's called tab 1. I can, of course, do other things with this, such as rename it. So this could be my CST pane that I'm looking at every day. I might be looking at teamwork, and I might want to have a filter of my very own. So I can add another tab. In fact, I can add as many as I like. It just becomes a bit unwieldy after a while. So I'm going to add another tab and watch what happens. Tab 2 is a complete identical copy of tab 1. Whatever tab you were highlighting at the time when you asked to add another, it will simply pull all of that setup across with it, which is quite useful because it saves you even having to apply a view or set up columns all over again. So it's always worth investing the time getting your first tab exactly right. Then anything that follows after it, you can actually copy that across directly. If you've added too many tabs and it's all getting a bit much, right-clicking and removing, close current tab. That will get that sorted out for you. Anybody eagle-eyed might have noticed one other command that's in there which is really useful. I'm just going to right-click that again. it is possible to put numeric column totals on. So should I have any fields on here where things did have numeric time against them, such as fixed time, development triage time, peer review time, basically I can get that to total up at the bottom of the screen. Now that's very useful, especially if you're a line manager or a team leader and you want to have a look at how much work has progressed within your team. It's also possible to put that kind of a setup in folders, but I'm not going to cover folders today because I don't want to get too complex with this particular one. Not everybody has them. I'm going to come back very briefly now to the workflow icons. I said earlier that any workflow icon that you see available to you should be consistent with where the actual call you're landed on is in terms of its workflow. This particular status call is open. I am able at this juncture to add a fix to it because that's what it requires next. I can also add all of these other ad hoc items which go hand in hand with our flow. There's quite a selection of them. Simply you can visit these without adding them permanently by clicking on, and if you want to escape out, just press the escape button and it'll disappear again. It's possible to have a look around the system in this way. Moving on then to a fixed call, watch what happens. The fix icon has disappeared. I'll just move back and forth again so you can see that. Fix icon there, fix icon gone. So realistically, if you cannot see an icon, any icon at that juncture of time, it's because the call is not in a correct state for you to actually access that particular activity at the time. If for any reason you decide not to build workflow items like this, all of these activities are available here underneath the Activities drop-down menu. Also, depending on your setup, one final thing, I have just got small icons on my screen. Quite often they can look like this, which as you can see is quite space consuming. I'm going to take that back off. Oh, pardon me. Go back to icon, because any of these that I hover over, it will still give me a full description of what it is that that event does. You will notice that you have different icons available potentially at the same time on the same call as a colleague. Don't worry about that, that's perfectly normal. Some of these are role-based and some of them are even product-based. So realistically, we don't want people to worry too terribly much about things that they don't see. We've tailored the screens so that hopefully you're only seeing the information that you have. All of the rest of these icons and what they do and how they work will be covered in another video. Right now, however, I'm looking at what's called a work item view, and if I ever want to come back to that from any other view, this is the icon that you press. It displays the work item list window. So we've covered so far here columns, menu items, orientation on the screen, and workflow items. Oh, and tabs as well, nearly forgot. Hopefully that's got you started, and we'll be covering more complex aspects in future videos such as filters and workflows. My name's Avril Stewart. Thank you for listening to this video. If you've got any comments, do drop me an email, avrilstewart@systemc.com, or via the Test Track admin email. Thanks for listening.